Oh, I thought it was not working. I think it's preparing. Okay, great. Awesome. Hello and welcome to our first salon with our fellows from the Artivision and Amplifier Fellowship. I'm really happy to be here in our last session, transmitted live to our channels on YouTube, and we are sharing the space with awesome communicators, activists, artists with different backgrounds. Um, and well, we will be meeting each one of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with us and for being part of this fellowship, which we at Human Impact Institute really um, believe it's an awesome way to connect global North and global South activists, climate activists, and not only that, but also collaborate. And today we will be exploring one very interesting subject uh, from, well, very related to all our work with the Creative Climate Awards, which is the role of artists in climate action. So today we have Rachel Interderwese. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing right, Rachel. You can correct me. Courtney Elms, Coco, welcome. Wada Iris Ruiz,
Haya, acha niende. Aki sijui amejitanga nini.
Aidatullah
Natrai
Sulaiman.
kutafuta na venye ajaka story leo, acha niende niangalie kwa stories.
Sorry. And we have Laura Doyle and Bea Brindle here with us. So thank you so much for being here with us. And I will start for letting you introduce yourselves. Uh, so maybe Coco, you're the first person in my camera. Maybe you can start introducing yourself.
Sure. Should I introduce the project yet, or just myself? Are we going?
Yeah, if you want, you can start talking a little bit about what was that project that you did and what. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So, hi, I'm Coco. I'm an Earth Guardian and Sacred Earth activist from the UK, but I live in Mexico in the land of the Chichimecas at the moment. I worked with Rachel Itenarezwe and Wara Iris Ruiz Condori, as well as Iridatula Suleiman. And our group worked on a collaborative poetry piece called Voices of Resilience, in which we took an ecofeminism approach to the theme Solutions from the Front Lines. And we spoke not only on climate change, but also on the intersection of women's rights and gender inequality, inspired by Indigenous communities such as Waras, who experience the worst of climate change, yet hold key knowledge of the land and see Earth as the relative, and also hold key solutions. Our poem was recorded for an audio installation and also translated into Spanish and Aymara, Wara's indigenous language, and we also included images of Wara's community in La Paz to accompany it. I don't know if you want to share those as well, Wara?
Yes, for sure. So my name is Laura Doyle Péron. I'm joining in from Djibouti, but I'm originally from Quebec, on Turtle Island. And I collaborated on a video piece with Bea Brindle, who is here, as well as Sofia Gutierrez and Celio Montero. And so the specific video piece was about uplifting the voices of people on the front lines of both climate devastation, but also climate resilience and climate resistance, if I may say. And so we worked with these two amazing women, Donna Cohen, who is a Cree Chippewa Mohawk singer and drummer. Perhaps I can share a link to her website or some of her singing afterwards, because it is definitely worth checking out. Big shout out. And we also worked with Regina, who is a small food producer in Mozambique, who talked to us about some of the challenges that food producers were facing due to climate change, due to droughts that they've been experiencing in Mozambique, but also heavy rain. And so that sort of ever-changing climate and really harsh contrast of temperature and how that was affecting food production. And I guess our initial project, we went in being like, we're going to do all these interviews and then turn it into poetry. And then we did the interviews and realized there was no need to change anything. The conversations that we've had with these women were just so amazing. And so we simply put them together to share as part of the presentation in New York. But just so ever thankful to those two women for sharing with us. And I don't know, Bea, if you wanted to add anything to the presentation, since you were the one doing the interview with Donna.
Like you summed it up really beautifully. But yeah, it was amazing to have these two interviews with two women, which I don't know if we expected, but it was so beautiful that it ended up that way, having their own unique narratives and perspectives. It felt really super authentic as well, the interviews, and to be able to get their own unique perspectives on what they've been through and being in a frontline community, and being able to piece together a beautiful message that we could put towards the people watching was amazing, to be able to give to amplify their voice in that way. So yeah, that's all I have to add.
That is incredible. That's incredible. I know for all those that don't know yet a little bit more about the Artivism and Amplifier Fellowship, we are not the only fellows that are here. That's why a lot of names from the groups that I'm mentioning are not here, because there will be part of other salons that will be carried out every Tuesday from, and we're going to have 3 more sessions besides this one. So you're welcome to join those as well. And thank you so much for sharing your projects. Maybe Wada, you want to
Hi
present yourself?
everyone. Thank you so much for choosing me for this climate activist program. I was working with Coco and Rachel and Ira, and my group was a poetry group focused on environmental climate justice, with a focus on ecofeminism from both the global south and north. We developed a compendium of poems on this topic in English, Spanish, and Aymara, as Coco said, and both in audio and written digital format. Likewise, we had a special focus on the indigenous Aymara people, of which I am part, and we were sharing these poems in Aymara language. Our team was created with a lot of innovation, I think. And yeah, I think I didn't introduce myself, but I am from Bolivia and I belong to an indigenous community that we are Aymaras in Los Andes. That's why we could work with Aymara language in this compendium of poems. And I am very happy and very proud of the work we did, because it was my first time doing this kind of activism, but in my native language.
Thank you, Wara. Maybe Rachel, you can share a little bit.
Okay,
I know that
thank you,
you have
everyone.
to leave. If you have to leave, it's fine.
Yeah,
We want to share with you as much as we can. or you have
Okay.
to.
Thank you. I would like to share how the journey was. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. The journey was amazing, just working with my fellow young ladies from the other side of the world. Our cultures are different, so we had to do these poetry together. So it required us to have like the so-called like common denominator, like this one is from this, I'm from Rwanda, others are not from Rwanda. So we had to have like the common theme as we worked on ecofeminism, the climate change, climate justice, and it was somehow interesting because we just advocate for the indigenous communities, as Wara is from Aymara community. So I would like to say, like, I learned a lot. I learned other cultures. I didn't know that Aymara exists. Even there are some other aspects in Rwanda that my team didn't know, but the team was amazing. It was collaborative. I would like to thank Coco. Coco was our head. She just supported us a lot. So I would like to say, like, it was for me, it was like the starting point because it was my first time doing the activism in terms of art with activism. So it's something which I'm going to continue working on even in my future. I'm not going to say like because the fellowship is over, I'm going to keep it like on this stage. I have to grow it up and continue. So thank you guys. Have good time. I have to leave. Wish you to have good time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much. And this leaves us with a really important part of our conversation today, which is the role of artists. The role of artists. And it's amazing that Rachel is continuing to work and wants to continue to work and saw the power of this. And I was waiting for the session to tell you, Coco, Wara, and Rachel specifically, something that happened with the project when it was presented during the gallery. One woman, old lady, an old lady, approached a photograph of one of the Aymara women that you photographed, and that was part of your installation and your poetry installation. And she started crying. Like literally, she was so connected to the photograph, so connected to her roots and to her experience. And listening to Aymara in New York was super emotional and very, very touched for that. And not only touched for what, like that was the portrait of what was happening with everyone that is exposed to one of our pieces. And we talked a lot about a ripple effect, something you do and how that can make a huge ripple effect in so many people that you don't even expect as an artist, as a communicator, as a creative climate communicator or activist. And really like touching those persons that might not be so connected to our climate struggles is something that I wanted to share with you. I know you didn't know this, but it was something that happened, and I'm sure that will continue to happen. Those kind of amazing coincidences. So this just as a starter, or one of our questions, that is, how can artists really leverage their platforms, their creative skills to inspire climate action? And this is one that I saw that I wanted to share with you, but also want to share wanted to hear, and we all here listening in our live session want to hear what are your perspectives on how can artists leverage in these creative expressions to inspire climate action. Anyone wants to jump in?
I'm happy to jump in. Thank you for sharing this moment from the showcase. This is beautiful, and I think it really speaks to how much connection can happen through art and around art. And Rachel's testimony as she was leaving also pointed to that when she was talking about her connection with Coco through the project. And I think art really has that power of bringing people together, which is what is needed for climate justice action or action on any, any sort of activism. You need relationships because it's people's power that are going to bring the change. And so I think it's really about how can we use our platforms to bring people together. And this fellowship did it in such a beautiful way where I'm really proud of the video that we made. But most importantly, I am so incredibly grateful and amazed at the connections that were built within my group and with participants of other groups as well. And I'm just really hoping that they can continue after the project because it's like the most valuable thing that I'm, leaving with. And I think the connections that we were able to make as well with Regina and with Donna were such beautiful connections. And so I think it's really about that, about building relationships through sharing the art, but also through making it.
Go ahead, Coco.
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of add to that in that art as activism. So artivism, it really brings people together, and I really believe in the power of community to overcome all the challenges that we're facing at the moment with the polycrisis. It lets us feel like less alone in the struggle, and with everyone like working on solutions together, there's more of an energy of hope. And yeah, I really value this community. So thank you so much for like bringing us all together. And yeah, it's beautiful.
I totally agree. And that one great, and not only great, but it really, really powerful aspect of our fellowship was definitely that articulation of such a broad range of cultures, such broad range of identities and inspirations as well. Maybe we can explore that a little bit. I love that words like hope, like intercultural connections are like coming up, because I also believe that's part of what we intended in our fellowship. And one of the main causes of us creating this fellowship was, for our audiences that might not know, was to create more connections between global North and global South activism, and to actually do a more solid and coherent movement of climate action. So I'm really glad, and we at the Human Impact Institute are very glad that this is actually happening through art, through artistic expressions, and leveraging on art to actually inspire climate change activism and mobilization. This is awesome. So thank you so much, Laura and Coco, for sharing. I know, Wara or Bea, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I feel very, very happy. And yeah, we were working on the audios in Aymara language with my mom, and it was very hard to make them. But we were very happy to share our culture and our language because I think it is kind of a revolution, like yeah, we are here as Amara people in the world, suffering from climate change also, and we want to hear our voices. And I think activists can leverage it with so many beautiful things, I think. And I am very glad, I am very happy and thankful because through this program we could create a multicultural and also multilingual project. And it was my first experience in this field, and it was very challenging, but I think it was the best strength, I think, of our project. And yeah, I think artists must work in this and in that way, multicultural way. Mhm.
Really true. I think that also art, when like made by different cultures and like it is a coalition of different perspectives, I think that makes it so much powerful, right? Like more people can connect to it, more people can maybe relate to it, and even having the same poem in 3 different languages. One that is, I believe, very, very, very uncommon in New York, which is Aymara, but still having that level of connection with someone in New York, that's super, super, super powerful. And I definitely believe that it inspired somehow somebody with like maybe a little concern of climate action, and starts like making a mindset change, cultural change, and just possibly question, right? As you know, Bea and Rachel, I know that you might have some connection troubles, so it's okay if you don't turn on your camera, but we also would love to hear you. So,
Yeah,
Bea,
leading on from what you said, Alvaro, I really do think that um, what I've seen in this project and what I've seen throughout my life is that art has the ability to bridge people's cognitive dissonance to kind of other people's struggles and what's going on in the world, which I do think is one of the main problems within the climate movement, is that sometimes people can't relate to others. And I think art on a general scale allows people to have their imagination sparked and to kind of put themselves um, in another person's shoes, or to gain a different perspective really viscerally. And yeah, for them to then gain knowledge, wisdom, or a perspective in that way is just so beneficial. I think that art and its ability to spark people's imagination and to think differently and to think creatively within the problems that are going on in the world is just beyond valuable. And I think that we've seen that within this project. And I also want to echo everyone's gratitude. I'm so grateful to be given this opportunity. It's been so wonderful to form these connections with such amazing people, and to be able to connect across countries and all different places in the world from all different walks of life. So yeah.
thank you, Bea. That's awesome. Rachel, I don't know if you want to add something, if you can listen to us, or if not, it's okay. Can continue. Well, this actually connects with something that we were discussing in a workshop that we had on Sunday with at our gallery space in Dumbo in New York. That is open until the 20th of May for those around New York that are listening to us. And it was we talked a little bit about the psychodynamic and how art goes into our subconscious, in our subconscious mind. And I would love to ask you, how do you believe art can foster empathy, can connect with emotional, like do an emotional connection with the viewers, and actually um, create environmental awareness, but also connect that to the environmental issues. So the use of art in awakening empathy and people living in Bolivia, but people struggling in different parts of the world due to climate crisis. We have indigenous peoples in our fellowship from Peru. We have many, many, many perspectives, and doing this through art rather than just a paper or a scientific research, that we believe that we might, or we want to believe that we listen to experts, but I believe that that can also be maybe not so accessible to everybody, and maybe art can be that. So I would have to ask you, what do you think about how art can really awake empathy and develop climate action. Go ahead, Coco.
So I have like a real life example of when this happened personally to me. We went to a dance performance at a theatre here in Guanajuato, and it was a group of dancers that were embodying trees. And so they started off as like a seed, and then they germinated, and then they like blossomed and grew, and then they spread the seeds again, and then they were going through the seasons, and it was so beautiful and really enchanting. And then there was like this classical music, and it got interrupted by like a chainsaw, and then the trees were getting chopped down, and it was such a stark contrast. You know, you'd been like taken along this journey and like really becoming one with the trees, and just for this like really kind of rude awakening. And then it showed the dance was, it was like communicating what would happen if all the trees went, and then all the dancers became humans, and then they were gasping for air, and they were really struggling to breathe, and then at the end they ended up reaching for just one plant that was left, and then all the plants came back, and they were like honoring these plants and dancing around with them. And it's difficult to describe in words just how that experience like affects you, because obviously seeing it in person is something completely different to like describing it to you. But I was moved to tears at the end of it, and I think a lot of people in the audience were too. And yeah, there was like a standing ovation, and it just kind of reminded us of our interbeing, our interconnection with nature. And yeah, like really created some mindfulness as to how we move in the world and what our impact on it is. And oh, Laura just said she has chills listening. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so basically just something like that, it kind of really awakens something within you. And I feel like everyone in the yeah, I had goosebumps in the show as well, and I feel like everyone in the audience was inspired to act upon it. And so yeah, that's just my redirect.
That is super, super powerful, and I believe that those chills that we all got from what you from your experience and from this performance are what I was trying to portray, in that goes to that you don't really know what's going on, but you're actually absorbing something in a way that you're not used to, or that really can do a change in your mindset that maybe would be different with I don't know, through a debate or through facts, rather than just experiencing something that actually makes you change your mindset in somehow. And I don't know if one of you have another experience of how art can or has even changed you somehow, or has developed that empathy that you have.
I have like an early childhood memory, because I think empathy is, so it's also something you learn, and you can learn at different moments in your life, and you can relearn at any point. But I had this book when I was a child. There was the story of a dodo bird, and it was just like the dodo going on like different adventures. And then my parents were like, "Oh, did you know they went extinct?" And I did not even have the concept of like a species going extinct at that age. And I was like, "Would you like? I just read about their adventures, but they're not there." And I think it even could have been like before I had any experience of like grief from like losing people in my family. So it was really this first experience of like coming to love someone or coming to love something, and then like have it taken away. And I think that's kind of what happened as well, although I can't fully explain it. When Coco, you were like telling the story, there's just this beautiful forest, and then you're like, wait, where is it? And yeah, I think like that was a very formative experience. And I haven't thought about that book in a long time. But just developing this connection and being like, okay, like life is so precious. And you feel this grief when you see something like, or when you don't see something because it's gone. And so like there is importance in protecting everything.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much. Ira just joined, I believe. She had told us that she could join a little bit later.
Thank you.
She's perfectly
I'm
fine.
sorry. I'm currently.
No worries, Ira. I think find your seat and join the conversation as you can. This is great. I don't know if Bea, Wara, you want to explore a little bit more how art has developed that empathy in you.
Oh, what are you go? You go.
Okay. I think art and nature have something in common, is colors and sound. I think with art we work with sounds, with colors, with shapes, and nature has a lot of them. So when we are creating with art, we could maybe show what is happening with our planet, with our environment, and that's why art is very friendly with this topic, I think. And for example, when we were working with our project, we added nature sounds in our poems. So it could be more it could be more interesting also, but maybe it could make a background to what we are saying. It was not just words, it was also sounds of our territories, our nature. So I think this is a strength of art when make it activist for climate change.
Thank you so much for that. That's super powerful. Like actually, art and the connection with nature is like completely intertwined in what you say, colors, sounds, and the way we explore art. It's like a way to connect with nature. And even when you do it with literally with sounds of nature and the sounds of birds while you're listening to these poems that you did were super powerful, and you actually get to be empathic with your surroundings and be aware of okay, what all this entails with a really positive message. And I think that's amazing. Thank you. Okay, that's great. Hello, Ira. I think you are already settled. I'm glad to see you. We're all glad to see you.
Hi
I
everyone.
also
Sorry. I'm just.
No worries. Thank you for joining. It's great. It's great.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Yeah, I've been trying to join for a while, but I think it was like, yeah, a connection issue. But hi everyone. So grateful to be here and be a part of this conversation. If we can like backtrack a little bit on some of the questions, like if you don't mind, and I can answer some of them.
Sure, definitely. If you want, you can present yourself to everyone watching that doesn't know who you are, where are you from, why are you here. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can just wrap it up for you to join the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Yorada Tala Suleiman, and my group comprises of Courtney, she's right there, Wara, Rachel. So it was four of us, and we worked on a poetry We're all women. We live in different parts of the world, and we're connected by poetry and the fight for climate justice. And I think that our poetry embodies like issues surrounding climate change and how it affects our community. All of us being from marginalized communities and like or seeing how climate change has affected marginalized and indigenous communities and how sorry and how like women of those communities are left to fend for either themselves or their families with little to no help from either government or community leaders in terms of resources and yeah, that's a little bit about me. I live in New York City. I'm from the Bronx. So I see how these like issues have exacerbated, especially in a couple of years. And some of this example of this could be maybe the earthquake that happened recently. In the frequent years, like the last three, 2 to 3 years, we've had more and more flooding. And sadly, some people also lose families and properties in these situations because they lack resources and income or money. So they live in the basement of some houses, so like the flooding affects them more. So that's one of the climate issues that happens in my community that I visually I'm aware of. So glad to be a part of this conversation, and it was so nice to be a part of this program as well.
Thank you. To wrap it up for those who are just joining, and for you, Ira, of course, we have discussed about really interesting topics around the role of art in climate action, how art can develop our empathy towards climate change, towards nature, towards awareness of our surroundings. We have explored a little bit about also what you were saying, the gratefulness of being a part of a program that actually connects different perspectives, different cultures, and actually collaborate in creative projects and artistic projects to deliver a message, to deliver a message and that can be interpreted in different ways. And we were talking a little bit about how art goes to a part of our brains that maybe we're not completely aware how that is is affecting. Although that's something that would love to know how art really affects our behavior, how it affects our subconscious, like how is being exposed to your poems, to your video, to your interview, the interviews that you did, or and Celio and your group, and actually knowing how this really tips a little bit in your mind or changes something in your mind for you to actually be more aware, be more conscious, be more empathetic, be more, yeah, do something about what's going on, you know, and really awake to this reality. So those are a little bit the subjects that I've been exploring. I don't know if any of you have something else to add that I'm missing for Ira and for our audience. I think.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think you touched on a lot of points. And one thing that also kind of brought me to the space of climate and environmental activism was being like emotionally involved in my community. And I think just it started from me volunteering at a farm and seeing how that brought my community together, even like through difficult times. And from then on, I learned like about projects that exist to preserve food histories and life experiences of like long-time community gardeners and urban farmers throughout my community. So that spoke to me, and I think it definitely encouraged me to be a part of this. And it also touched on it touched on like my emotional side, I would say, because these are old people. They come in, like they never miss a day. They're like so nice. They give out potatoes every time we come in and like volunteer with them. So I think what people can do or what can inspire people to be a a vessel of change is to continuously learn and evolve, stay curious and learn, be open-minded to seeing how your artistic sides can be adaptable to different scenarios and situations, and like practice how you can develop your platform to communicate with um different communities, different age groups. And like you said, this is definitely a program that embodies that. And it's incredibly empowering to have like so many people from so many places using their creative outlets to put their skills, time, energy, and love into what we're doing. So it's also very important to create or be a part of a platform that has conversations about climate change, whether that's on a monthly basis, weekly basis, however available your I think this fellowship also challenged me to do that. Just because I have a lot going on. Like right now I'm at work, so like it can kind of slip away from you from like day to day, not thinking about how like climate can affect us daily. Like once you have your job, you have school, families, whatever, it can like slip away from you, and maybe that emotional connection to like your environment and like the climate crisis that's going on might not be as strong as it was. So that would be my way of encouraging people, like step out of your comfort zone, be involved with your craft, and be very dynamic with it.
Definitely, definitely. I think that you explored something that is very important, and I think that can lead to another question I have for you, and it's the power that art has to open minds, to articulate people, to awake hope, love, and even make people curious to learn, as you were saying, Ira. And I believe that that power is something that we can explore in also, like what kind of responsibility have artists, if they haven't, with using that creative power that they have to awake those um, consciousness and that drive and that hope. And actually, do you believe that there's a responsibility attached to this creative power that I think that we have explored that anyone can develop it, actually. And it's something that I believe that we also explored during the fellowship. But also, like, is there a responsibility artists have and art expressions have, like anyone capable of doing a creative expression has? What do you think about that? Bea, if you want to.
I think the word responsibility is really interesting. I think I really want to, like, in my answer, maybe intertwine what we were talking about earlier when we say that being out in nature is the same as kind of like how we experience beauty in diversity and beauty of experience. And I think when we go out in nature, we don't kind of question any of its existence. We see its kind of perfection in all of its diversity, and it really awakens our kind of heart space within us. When we go out in nature, we kind of recognize that in the diversity of experience and utilizing all of our five senses really awakens this physiological, emotional response in us, that opens us up to what I really feel is love. And I feel like a kind of responsibility within art is to evoke that kind of similar response where we gather all of these different types of perspectives, all of these different ways that we can look at the world, the same as we do in nature, and see and evoke through the kind of five senses people's empathy within that. And I think it's a kind of recognition as an artist that, and we talk about power, that we have the power to do that. And it's whether within ourselves we can take on that responsibility, that perhaps we could make a difference, perhaps we could, gift something to the world in order to inspire more empathy and more action. Yeah, it's whether people want to take that on, I guess. Responsibility is a big word. But I also think that we're doing something collaboratively as a team, which takes off the individualistic aspect of like, what can I do? What can little old me do? I think that when we work together, I really have hope and faith that we can do anything, especially when it comes from the heart. Thank
you so much. Yeah.
Bringing up about working together, because I think, like, as an artist myself that's practicing in like the literary arts, it's often something that's very solitary and individual, and being reminded that there's so many other people, working on similar topics or dealing with similar situations. And when we're talking about making art for activism, is also being reminded that there are movements, social movements working on these things. There are communities on the front lines working on these things, and not feeling like we were alone and all of the weight is on us, but trying to build connections with those movements so that our art can then help people find those movements and get involved. And one big thing for us was like listening to voices on the front lines, but also how can we support the front lines? And so really looking at bridging people and bridging movements together. And I think another responsibility, especially when we're talking about climate change, is like recognizing that the root of the climate crisis we're facing is colonialism. And so if we want to address the climate crisis, we have to address colonialism, and we can't reproduce the same extractive patterns. And one thing that I was hearing a lot growing up is like, oh, be a voice for the voiceless, be a voice for the voiceless. And that's something that was like coming up so much in school and also in art spheres. And then I've come to learn, like, there's no such thing as the voiceless. Like, there are people who are being silenced, who are not being listened to, but there's no such thing as the voiceless. So it's, how do we make sure that when we share a story, we're not stealing that story from someone else, and we're not extracting experiences that are not ours to share for the world, but how are we building connections with people who want to share their stories and ensure that those stories are shared with care, and with respect for the people in the communities that they belong to.
I just wanted to add on to that, thank you, and say like we had that hiccup when we were working on our project as well, because we were focused on Indigenous women and their communities. So it was kind of hard to, I don't know, be a voice for them, like you said, when they're not voiceless. It's just that their voices are not amplified as much as it should be. So that was definitely a challenge that we had to work around. And I'm just glad that you brought that up, because it's definitely important to recognize that.
Go ahead. You raised your hand.
Oh yeah, just to bounce off like what Laura and Bia were saying about like the current dominant culture is like very extractivist, colonialist, individualist, consumerist, patriarchal, all these things. And I think a huge responsibility for artists is to there's a really beautiful title of a book called More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. And it's to kind of create that vision and inspire people. There's also a really nice quote by Tony Cade Bambara that says, "The role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible." And you can see that happening now because with everything that's happening in Palestine, with the genocide, people are in the streets, they're chanting, they're singing, they're dancing, people are creating journalism, there's murals, there's posters, there's infographics, there's like all this art. And it's everywhere in the movement for justice. And I think also a world without art is just no fun. I think Laura shared this quote in one of our sessions, is that if your revolution doesn't have dancing, then I don't want any part in it or something. So it just like keeps everyone like upbeat and connecting and enjoying themselves even in the face of hardship.
That reminds me of one of the sessions we had during the fellowship with the Fearless Collective. And if you remember, all their mission is that, I believe, turning fear into love, turning fear into action. And I believe that dancing is one part of it, but also painting a mural, doing this kind of projects, like really feeling that fear and turning it into action. And I would like maybe for you to give some recommendations for next fellows, how to really not let that fear, first of all, paralyze you, or maybe stop you from acting, or just being annoyed, or like for what's happening, and also for all the huge challenges and barriers that, Ira just shared some of them, but there are many challenges as we work across cultures with different languages. So there's a language barrier, there's a culture barrier, there's a time zone as well. So in order for us to collaborate, in order for us to turn those motivations that we have into creative expressions. So if you have some advice for other folks, I would love to hear each one of you, if you want to share maybe a personal experience of the fellowship, or just like directly some advices of how to give how to collaborate. Maybe Wara, you want to start?
Okay. Well, I think it is very important, 3 things. The first one is being creative. And not only one person must be the creative one. We were working with groups, so maybe we have to be very open to any idea, even the most crazy one could be the inspiration of the project. So it is the first recommendation, to be open to any idea of the group. We are from different cultural backgrounds, so it is very important to be open. And then the second one, I think it is very important to be curious about the culture of the other, because I think it was my first time when a group of people was very interested in what is Aymara people, what are their language, what we are doing in Los Andes. And I was very motivated by this curiosity of my group, and it was very, very warm for me. And then the third one, it is very important to be open also with the language barriers. I think it was one of my a challenging thing because I speak Aymara, but also Spanish. But fortunately, I speak English, but no this so common in my region. So it was very important for the working group. And the other one, it is important to divide the work in the group, and being present, I think, because everyone is putting their um, essence. So it is like a paint canvas when everyone is given one color, and you must be present in the group. And it is very important to work with the group, uh, and being very empathic with the leader. And I think Coco was our leader, and we were very empathic with her work also. So, yeah, I think those are my recommendations for the next fellows.
Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has more advices for next cohorts of fellows before I can address our last question for today's conversation.
I don't know if it's specific.
I just wanted to.
Go ahead.
No, it's absolutely fine. My God, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know if it's specifically for the next cohort, but you also asked something about how to transform fear into action. And I quite like that question. I think Wara answered beautifully for advice for next cohort. So if I can respond to the second question, I think the first step is really recognizing that fear, or recognizing anger, or whatever emotion or emotions the crisis is bringing up. I had a moment a few years ago where I was feeling a lot of despair and powerlessness due to the climate crisis, but also other patterns of violence that I was seeing in my community, in the world. And it was really hard. And I think we're often in spaces where we're told that our emotions are like not rational, not important, and should be put aside because there's more important things to do. But I think the really first part is recognizing whatever emotions are there, because they're part of us and they're part of this work. And so if fear is there, like making space for it and making space for holding that, but then looking to connect with other people who might also have experienced it or are experiencing it, in acting together. I think the other barrier to action is really this feeling of being isolated and feeling like we're the only one that sees this thing, or we're the only one that cares about this thing. But there's always going to be someone else, and maybe sometimes there's more barrier to finding that person, but there will be someone, there will be a group, there will be an elder, there will be another youth who also cares and who's also motivated. And so trying to find that connection, and then working together and just starting somewhere. We don't have to do everything, but starting somewhere and learning more about, if, for example, if there's like an industry in your community. When I was in CEGEP, it was like the incinerator in the neighborhood where I was, that was like polluting that neighborhood a lot. And so doing, the research and finding ways to influence change in any way that we can, but in knowing that we're not alone and it doesn't have to all be on our shoulders.
Thank you, Laura. That's really, really, really good advice. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love how not being anxious of having like huge, just starting something super important, and like getting to know more about what's going on. That's something that's super important if you want to actually inspire action. Go ahead, Ira. Ira, do you want to?
Sorry, the connection is a bit so. I just wanted to say, like that was beautiful, and I think I can relate that to what like the genocide that's happening in Palestine right now. It kind of feels like, oh, no one sees this, or like there's a majority amount of people that, this is clearly wrong, and some people just like it's just it could get overwhelming. So, what advice I have for the next cohort is stay authentic, stay true to yourself. Someone else might not agree with the way you do things, or you might see something that's wrong, and maybe your group is not you don't have that relationship, and it might cause self-doubt or whatever emotions you're feeling. I think it's very important to stay true to yourself and find a common ground with people you don't agree with. I'm lucky to have, I think I have like I say this, but I think I have the best group in the whole like fellowship. I'm just kidding though. But Coco is such an amazing person. Wara is so inspirational. Like I never heard of Aymar before, and that was like her third language, and it was definitely like a new I guess language for me to discover because I never heard of it before. She exposed us to her culture, and I appreciate her for being open to that and just being open to teaching us. And I also think it's important for the next cohort to practice self-care. And another way to do that is to celebrate progress. Like it doesn't matter like how overwhelmed you might feel, how excited you are. You might be overwhelmed, you might be excited, but it's very important along the way to practice self-care and celebrate your milestones. You might just have the first part of the film, or you might have a rough draft for the poetry, but that's still something, and it's work in progress. So don't feel overwhelmed, communicate with your group and celebrate progress. Also take care of yourself.
Super important. Thank you so much, Ira. And this is an awesome opportunity to celebrate that awesome outcome. Not only the progress that you had over the fellowship, but this outcome that if the people that are listening are around New York, they can actually come to our gallery space in 38 Washington Street in Brooklyn, in Dumbo, and see actually the projects that we are talking about. So welcome to join if you're around. If not, then we will be, of course, sharing this in our social media and our awesome outcomes. And congratulations on that. And I'm really happy that we all survived this fellowship and all these projects. So congratulations. Great opportunity. Thank you, Ira, for celebrating this as well. Awesome. How Ira, yeah, if you have to leave, it's okay. Don't worry. Thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your perspectives, for sharing us your well, all the experience of sharing with you and with this awesome group. So thank you, Ira. Nice to have you. Goodbye. Well, I think that we can start wrapping up with our last question for today's conversation. We have been exploring different parts of the fellowship, but as well like the role of artists in climate action and the importance, the power that it has, the responsibility that might be intricately intertwined with their art and their work. But I would like to, just as Coco did, share one of these performance that actually impacted you, I want you to please, if you have some examples to share of impactful art projects that have contributed to climate awareness and advocacy in your life. That would be great. I don't know, Coco, if you want to start, and then we can pass around the word and wrap up our today's session, today's lab.
Oh, I feel like I have so many of these examples, so it's hard to know which to choose. I shared this in the fellowship sessions as well, but I volunteer with Extinction Rebellion on the Global Support Arts team, and we conducted a photography contest for a 2024 calendar based around the theme of water. So people sent in their images of water, including like the solutions and also the issues that they were facing around the world. And then we got a panel of 5 judges to narrow this down to 12, and the judges were water advocates and photographers. And then these 12 finalists went into a calendar and also a traveling exhibition that's been exhibited around the world. And then we got the general public to vote on the top 3 images. And yeah, it was just a fun way to kind of get people thinking about water issues and solutions in the area, and to get people to go out and investigate and like find out, and to also raise awareness. So yeah, that's one example.
Thank you, Coco. My camera just went off for 1 second, but I heard you. Thank you so much. And I don't know if anyone else has another example. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, I was gonna let Laura go first.
Okay.
Mine's a quick one, I guess. So I'm part of a group in London that's trying to defund new oil and gas drilling. And there's a new project called Rosebank, which is the largest undeveloped oil and gas field in the North Sea, which is being run by Equinor, being funded by Equinor, which is a Norwegian company, and they have their embassy in London. And it came to a head like a few months ago that they were about to make a decision as to whether or not Rosebank was going to go ahead. Unfortunately, it was put through. We're still fighting against it, but it was put through. So we'd anticipated this event, and we created a huge life-size paper mache whale. And it was all of these beautiful kind of technicolors of the colors of water, and it was life-size, and it could move like a puppet. And we paraded it through the streets of London all the way to the Norwegian embassy. And then when it got there, we threw oil all over this whale, and it was destroyed at the end of it. It was a really powerful image to make. And we were sad to see her go because we put so much time and effort into her, but we felt that it was so necessary to say goodbye to her in this way, because we'd been fighting for many, many months for Rosebank not to go ahead. Even years, actually. We'd probably been doing it for about 1.5 years. So this was our grand goodbye to our whale. But it was a really, really powerful statement, and it got a lot of news coverage, which was really good. So it was able to bring awareness as to what our government was funding, as to what the Norwegian government was funding. And we hoped that in our efforts it would make a difference.
Thank you. I wish we had more time to explore also all the importance of of communications and also of reach of our initiatives, which is super powerful. And also, yeah, I guess letting go your whale and in this really impactful way is super hard, but also, as you say, necessary. Um, I wish we could have more time to explore each of these examples, Carcos Beas, but I would love to, and I believe our audience also would love to know Laura's and Wara's example before we say goodbye.
I was going to share about a different one, but then Bea reminded me of a really cool similar art display that was done, I think it was 2 years ago, in front of RBC, the Royal Bank of Canada. They have like a big office tower and also like service bank in downtown Jojage, Montreal. And they in Canada are the bank that funds the most fossil fuel projects. And so there's often demonstrations in front of or inside their space to denounce that. They fund a lot of projects that go through unceded Indigenous territory, including the CGL pipeline. And so there was a protest to denounce their complicity with land grabs in the Yinta, which is Wet'suwet'en territory. And there was like people dressed up as like bankers and went to like the steps and were like throwing cash and then like spilling oil on the marches. There was this like theatrical thing, but as part of the demonstration. And it was both like denouncing what they were doing, but also in such a like caricatural way. So it was also like bringing a lot of laughter in the crowd because it's just so absurd, but then it's just representing reality. And I think that aspect of like both having like humor and bringing joy to a demonstration against something that is so violent and like emotional for many people. And also including the art piece within protest space. And that's something I experienced another time. There was a poetry reading event that I had the privilege of being invited in. It was happening in an outdoor space and it was Poetry for Palestine. And so we were a bunch of poets that gathered at this park near a metro station, reading our poetry or reading poetry from Palestinian poets. And I read a poem from Mahmoud Darwish. And it was just this beautiful community gathering of like really beautiful poetry. And at the same time, we were so aware that we were like in a protest space and our city being the way it is and being like very, I guess, repressive of decolonial social movements, like sent in a bunch of cops that were just surrounding the space where it was basically just families chilling and listening to poetry. Like there was nothing threatening and there was everything threatening about it because it was such a beautiful community space. And yeah, I think there was something really powerful in that.
Super powerful, actually. Thank you for sharing. Wara, you want to share one?
Yes. Well, I want to say that it is not so common to 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 see a climate activist activity here in Bolivia. I think we are working more in the advocacy field and also with youth organizations, but no, it's not so common. That's why I was applying into this program, and I wanted to share with all of the youth people here my experience and also how could it be the process for doing such a projects. And yeah, just one time I was like the public of one act, but it was like a protest in front of the embassy of United States in my country, and it was an acting where people was one person acting as the planet with chains around the body, and all of the some people that was like threatening the person that was acting like the planet, and yeah, and that's all. But it was no very uh it was very revolutionary here, I think, that some young people in my country is afraid of doing that. And yeah, I think we are going to enhance this kind of activities with the experience I had in the program. And I am sure that many people here, especially young people, want to make poems, make some videos about climate change also, but in the artist way and not in the informative way. So I think it is just the beginning of what you are making in this program, and I am very hopeful that all of I learned here in the program I could pass to another youth organizations or children organizations that are working with climate change.
Thank you, Aura. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything. I wanted to take a moment before we close to express my gratitude to each one of you for your commitment, for your dedication to discuss your passion for activism and your tireless efforts in these projects to raise awareness, to actually ignite change are truly inspiring. And having the privilege of working with you and sharing all these sessions and maybe long nights of work and having the result in our gallery space is truly amazing, inspiring, and it really takes a special kind of courage and conviction to stand up to what you believe and to actively do something, towards that positive change you believe in. So yeah, just wanted to take that moment to thank you. I do believe that together we can make a real difference and create awareness and drive meaningful change. So each one of your contributions is huge and invaluable. So thank you once again for sharing that passion, and just an expression of my deepest appreciation for your work, for your power, and for sharing it with us. So that's it for today's session. Was, I believe, a really interesting salon. Thank you for sharing this conversation with all people that are watching in our YouTube channel. This has been a live streaming, but will be in our YouTube channel for anyone to see. And thank you for being here, and I hope that we can keep on raising awareness through our work.
And thank you so much, Alvaro, because I think you've been the hardest worker on the entire fellowship. So thank you so much for everything you've done, bringing us together, and just like ease of communication and everything. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else in the groups. And yeah, everyone's done amazing work. Thank you so much.
I echo Coco's thanks on behalf of all of the group. I think it's just been really amazing, and you've been doing a lot of work coordinating with all of us. And so thank you for making this space possible.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank all the people who joined to our live streaming. Thank the rest of the fellows that might be watching from home. We will have 3 more sessions. 3 more sessions along this month, every Tuesday. And the next session will be Tuesday, May 7th, and will be something that we touched very briefly during our conversation today, which is Decolonizing the Climate Crisis. And we will delve deeper into that topic next week. So if you're listening right now, you're very welcome to join. That session also will be streamed live to our YouTube channel. So thank you. And one more reminder for those listening in New York to visit our gallery space, to visit our projects, your projects, the amazing projects that you worked on and that are showcased there. So anyone who is curious, please come visit. Doors are open, entry is totally free. We open Wednesday to Sundays from 12 to 6. So you're very welcome to join. And thank you, Wada, Coco, Laura, Thea, for this awesome conversation. Ira at the left and Rachel, both Rachels. Thank you so much. See you soon.